Did you see that performance in Paris 2 weeks ago? Are you outraged? We're outraged. We're outraged. Now, we've been tracking. We took our time on this because we wanted to make sure that we watched the responses to the outrage, the horror, the blasphemy, and we will come here with a much more considered and thoughtful, and oh my gosh, the outrage of the symbolism, the sex, the staggering incomprehensibility, all of it. Tonight on the Mosaic Ark, the love feast. Welcome. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Aren't you outraged? My sense of aesthetics is overwhelmed.
Aesthetics. It's hard to look at that and think the serious use of the word aesthetic. I guess that it's most dictionary term, yes, but
well, I can't. Are you? I know you're outraged, right? It's like the well, okay. Let's see. The outrage I have. It's like I did actually watch. Okay, so tonight, guys, we're talking about the opening ceremony at the Paris Olympics, if you didn't figure that out from my cryptic setup. It was Friday, July 26th. And the things that I learned about this setup is most everything that's been floating around the internet, it's like blurts and clips and stuff like that. But the whole ceremony took 4 hours, right? So
the opening ceremony took
it was 4 hours, and I did actually look at one of the sort of news media clips of the montage of what was going on. I think it was NBC, right? Because they're running the show, and it was I had misunderstood based on the little snapshots that people were showing of particular elements of the opening ceremony, where it was, right? It was actually staged all along the river. Duh, right? I didn't realize that, and. At the Olympics, usually in the opening ceremonies, they have processions of the teams from the different countries. Here, it looks like they were all on boats going down the river, or at least some of them. Yeah. So it was we're really only going to concentrate on the love feast tonight, but just to recognize that there was more going on. There was one of the Marie Antoinette celebrating the bloodiness of the revolution with the horrible heavy metal music. Sorry, guys, I hated it. That was in one of the palaces on the river, right? Like they put them in the windows of the palace, and then I didn't watch enough of this to figure, because I'm not watching all 4 hours of it to entertain you guys for two. The dinner, it looks like it was on a bridge. Right? What it's like the Seine was over the water, right? Okay. Now that we have the stage, you're outraged.
You know what? I think I might be suffering from outrage fatigue.
I'm
over the past couple of years.
How much more outraged can we be?
I'm like, well, exactly. It's like, it's obnoxious, but I expect nothing less from people that hate me. And they clearly do hate. It's triumphalism, right? The Marie Antoinette's holding a severed head. It was they're mocking a woman that the state murdered centuries ago. And I think she was probably a decent woman. She wasn't as she's been portrayed, but even if she was, why would you triumphantly, portray this in artwork as if this is the best Paris has to offer? Look what we've done here. Here, let's celebrate this heinous act of, several centuries ago. And while we're at it, let's have a Bacchanalian feast that mocks the Last Supper, the way the revolutionaries, worship the goddess of reason in Notre Dame Cathedral. This is not the best France and Paris has to offer. So
it is, however, accurate. I mean, they did set up the guillotine in the place, in the center of the city. Yeah. And, Madame Lafarge may not have been there, but the executions actually happened and were celebrated. Yeah, but they were being accurate to their own mythology.
Why would you celebrate that, though?
But that's who they are. Right? That's who they're defined by. That's
who they'd like to think they should be defined by, but it's just all of it. It was sickening. It's less outrageous and more just sickening.
Well, maybe we're just not French. You want to like Paris. See, if you're going to try to win me over here by liking Paris, that's not the right place to start.
No, it's not. Paris is an amazing city. I've unfortunately only seen it once. I would love to go back.
Okay, you need to do a bit of like why you like Paris to set us up too, because if we're going to rescue the lady, if we're going to rescue the lady from this atrocity, we need to explain why we want to.
Paris is a beautiful city. Its architecture is stunning. Its public monuments are stunning, right? And I understand there's a lot of, bad things that happened with. Well, I'm thinking of the Arc of Triumph, right? This was put up during Napoleon's time, and he was not such a nice person. So a lot of the bad things that happened,
cutting people's heads off,
right, resulted nevertheless in some pretty stunning architecture, right? Which was beautiful, and which inspired other architects around the world to try to copy it and to try to copy the city designs. Washington, D.C. We did that one, right? That was a Frenchman also that designed it.
Okay, now you just lost me completely. We're gonna go for the Masonic capital, Casey.
Well, the structures are beautiful. They're physically pleasing, right? To look at.
I think you need to be more specific about which ones.
Okay. Well, all right.
Actually, in the Place de la Concorde, isn't there one of the obelisks there? The Cleopatra, is that Cleopatra's Needle?
Cleopatra's Needle is there. Yeah, right. But I was thinking more of the mid to late 19th century buildings, that were constructed. So Paris is a very old city, but much of it is brand new. It's not 1,000 years old. It's 150 to 200 years old. So there was a lot of stunning architecture that was put there in parks, and there are museums with stunning pieces of artwork in there that are from all over the world. And that's maybe what they should have been celebrating. I wouldn't even demand that they celebrate their Catholic past.
Oh, we want to demand that they do. Come on.
I would love to.
They haven't been comfortable with that for a while.
No, they haven't. That's a pity, because the most stunning thing I saw there was Notre Dame Cathedral, and it was before somebody tried to burn it down. And I do think it was arson, but that's another topic. It was an incredible place to just stand, and New Age people like to talk about energies. It's like Taos, New Mexico. It's got all this energy. I could just stand there and absorb it. You really feel that in Notre Dame Cathedral. These people knew what they were doing when they made it soaring up to the sky. They wanted you to have the feeling that you were small and that heaven was very big, but at the same time, it's made of thick stone and you feel protected. So you actually feel like you're in the palms of the hands of God when you're standing there. That's what it feels like. They could be celebrating things like that, but that makes them uncomfortable. But a tranny in a beard shaking his non-existent fake boobs. Let's do that instead. That's what the outrage to me comes from. I'm outraged aesthetically, not religiously. I already know they hate me. They hated Christ first, right?
So okay, now I've triggered you.
Yeah, I'm triggered.
So what's interesting about the gay New Testament, as Barbara Butch put it, and then I think has revised on her Twitter. It's like, guys, the internet is forever. Everybody's always going to remember what you said because somebody will have screenshotted it.
Yeah.
that
For everybody.
she was wanting herself to be the Olympic Jesus in this moment, and that, you know, as her original presentation of this was that it's the gay New Testament. Okay, so I mean, people get outraged when their sacred imagery is tapped for something, right? And I'd say this is
it's an abuse.
Well, it's interesting with her, right? That Butch, you know, she said one, I actually didn't put any. Thomas Jolly is the designer of all of this, and I did not do a deep dive on exactly where he comes from, except for I think he's
I think he's from London.
Okay, but she's a DJ, right? And is set in the center of this scene. We have a close up here of her making the heart image with her hands, and that she's dressed in what's meant to be, I think, a kind of, you know, glamorous. It's blue, it's silver and blue, right? And it's got stars in her halo crown and things, and whatever else. If they said it was meant to be the Last Supper in the scene on the river. That's this Le Seine sur la Seine is that, right? It's the Last Supper on the river, in the scene on the river. Okay. And that, you know, she's saying they mean this to be sacred in some sense. That flat out, clearly, if you're feeling that there is a religious intent in this setup, I think they would be massively disingenuous if they try to claim that there isn't, right? So it's meant to have some,
and they are.
It's meant, well, now they are. Oh, it's just a performance. Oh, it was clearly meant to charge something. And therefore, and it worked, right? It's everybody's responding.
No, their
responding
artistic
to
expression was nothing more than a great big "fu." Let's call it what it is.
Well, okay, so then we have the blue guy under the dome that came again. I've mainly seen stills of this, so I don't know exactly how they lowered him down. And here he's in a plate of fruit
with a crane.
You're such a good foil for me tonight. I'm trying to be all, you know, like, oh, let's understand the symbolism. No, it's horrible.
Yeah, these people are horrible. I mean, yeah, anyway, go on.
I tried to rein her in, guys. You could tell. That again, things that I had understood from the stills, but to show up in the video. So what they're actually sitting behind is not a table, it's a runway. Right, it's like they've been dancing along. The red on the table is, for everyone watching, right? The red on the table is basically a like a fashion runway path, and so the table is not in fact a table; it's a walkway that they're sitting behind, and
or a bloody altar.
Okay. Wait,
the
thing is, you're not wrong to be responding to this as a symbolically. Spiritually charged exercise, right? They mean it that way. All of this, and that's what the irony of things like the you know, the singing beheaded Marie Antoinette and then heavy metal music and stuff like that. Whatever they want to claim that it was as a celebration of unity, or, you know, the opening of this athletic game, it's a religious event. They are doing this on purpose as a kind of ritual. Flat out, totally agree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Who do they think they're worshiping?
Well, this is where I wonder, right? Because I think what I cannot pretend to imagine that I can get inside the heads of the Blue Bacchus guy and what he was singing about being naked, right? We're naked. Okay, and he's there with the others.
Glad they cleared that up.
He's shiny and blue. It's unfortunately, the more you watch it, it's one of those, the more you watch it, the more comic it inevitably becomes. If Butch originally said it was a gay New Testament and that she was the Olympic Jesus, I don't know what, and he's clearly trying to be Bacchus in some kind of, you know, he's the draped in vine leaves and something like that. What God are they worshiping? You're right. That's a fair question. Now, we have an answer in our realm of theology to say what we think it is, and therefore it's dangerous. But in their minds,
and whether or not
what God,
and whether or not they're doing it consciously. But.
Well, I mean, in Draco Chemicus, we're trying to show how people get sucked into this kind of thing and think of it as good, right? I do honestly think that the vast tragedy here is, in their minds, it's something positive.
Yes, I think I was reading people's Twitter reactions, and Bob Croce, he had a very kind thing to say about it, and that was that, you know, he feels bad for these people because he does sense that they want something more.
Yes.
Inside, and that's why they're doing this.
Right.
That's why, and that's, you know, the whole, you know, gay tranny camp, you know, movement in theater is kind of an expression of that too. They desperately want to be accepted for who they are, but they aren't really who they're supposed to be. And that's why they're constantly looking to push buttons and push limits and gaslight people and say, no, it's not that. It was just Bacchus, you know. I'm gay Jesus. No, I didn't really mean that. You know, it's they're changing back and forth depending upon how much support or pushback they get. I don't think and I'm kind of with them on this. I don't think they thought they would get the pushback that they did on it. I'm kind of surprised myself that they did.
That they got the pushback, or that?
Yeah, well, from everybody.
Okay.
Because it was tasteless, yeah, but we've seen many tasteless things over the years. I'm more offended that I think Paris had more to offer than that, because that was just a bad, campy gay joke. They can do better.
I didn't like the heavy metal music. I thought that was terrible. I mean, it was really ugly music. It's like what kind of music you might have.
Well, it's accompanying a beheading, right? So it's violent.
Yeah, it was violent, and I mean, with the discussion I saw of it saying, you know, think this is the birth of our republic in this revolution. You could say, you know, it's like we celebrate Washington crossing the Delaware on Christmas to murder whoever it is he's going up against in that moment. I mean,
I don't feel sorry for the Hessians. Sorry. They had it.
Oh, come on. You're going to sympathy for the Germans, right? The Hessians were mercenaries, and I learned about them in this book that I was reading about Germany and the world. We can talk about that some other time. So no, the thing is, I think to the theater world that the performances came from, the drag world that the performances come from, they are, and this is the, you know, they're tapping into real spiritual energies for sure. And they're tapping into ones that we know from antiquity were often used in the pagan cults. The sort of transsexuals are what I find. Okay, this is the most public thing I'm going to say about this ever. Okay, so let's craft it carefully so that it's accurate to my thinking. It's curious to me that the term that we use now is transsexuals, and that we have, you know, men who are having themselves castrated so that they perform in a ambiguous role now. In the ancient, you know, cult of the Sibylle, the Great Mother from the East, right? Those were the Galli who self-castrated themselves to serve her. So that's interesting.
They were called the Galli?
Galli, yeah. I hope that I have that right. I'm doing a lot of this off the top of my head sometimes.
And the director of the show is last name Jolly?
Oh, that I think is an accident, right? But maybe not. I don't know.
That's just kind of an interesting coincidence.
We also know, I mean, there's eunuchs that serve in imperial courts throughout history, both in China and Constantinople, and
right. But difference, right? The eunuchs were supposed to be guards, right? They weren't putting on dresses and dancing, were they?
Well, so in Byzantium, some of them, they're not necessarily just guards, right? You imagine them as harem guards. They actually, sometimes it's a way of cutting, taking people out of the political context, because they can't have children and therefore can't participate in the family politics. They often in Byzantium held very high offices in the imperial court, like bureaucratic offices, not just guard offices. And in Constantinople, or in, you know, the regions around Byzantium, some of them were in monasteries, right? So they're monks. And interestingly, they have this kind of ambiguous role in that context, that they don't have beards because castrated men don't grow beards. And so they were beardless monks, and they have apologists trying to, have them not hated by the bearded monks, who think of themselves as angels. Right. So the other role that castrated men had was as singers. Right. That's
right,
what's the castrati, which is interesting. It's like, so there's, the trans claiming that it's changing gender rather than taking on one of these liminal roles. I find interesting that the sort of binary of it must be one or the other sex, which is, they're not, right? They're in a third category, which is this ambiguous one, which is often spiritually considered incredibly powerful, whether religiously or politically or, as artistically, with the castrati in the early modern period. We also know that, for example, when Luprand of Cremona in the 10th century takes gifts to the emperor from the northern Italy, he brought with him some boys who had been castrated. There's trade in slaves who have been castrated throughout, our written history. Yeah. Therefore, what's going on in these performances is pretty complicated, I think, traditionally and culturally. And most of the time, people are not. They're just seeing it as this kind of theatrical, edge pushing. As you say, I think mainly what people had in their minds will be camp and outrageous and playful. But
I think the Marie Antoinette was disturbing because you have a group of men who are dressing up like women and implanting breasts, so they've got the physical characteristics of women, but they've got beards and they're dancing around. And oh, by the way, here's a real woman, and we symbolically cut her head off. Yikes! I mean, that brings it kind of to a disturbing level.
There's the edge that, well, and this is the thing. It's the thing I've never heard people talk about or acknowledge when they're dealing with this phenomenon is the reason it works is it's on the edge of the most powerful thing humanity has, which is sex, right? And this and it that Freud talks about this. I don't even know why we don't talk about this properly. The reason these boundary conditions and transgressions and so forth have the power that they do is that this is where life comes from, right? You need men and women to make babies. That is literally the single most charged thing we do as living creatures, is make more living creatures. It's life, right? It's mysterious. We have no idea how it happens. Nobody can explain where we came from. I mean, we have theological descriptions, but we don't know. If you've even seen like puppies, there's two dogs and now there's more dogs. How does that happen? It's magic, right?
Yeah, right.
And that these theatrics are therefore tapping into what is literally the most powerful force that we participate in as human beings. Not a surprise, right? And I don't actually like that most of the political conversation just goes on the level of outrage and disgust and horror. It's like, where did that come from? You know what the horror of death is, and the beheading and things like that. Where is this horror of sex that is something other than and procreative is such a non-word, right? Like, why can't we have fertile, right? It's funny that we have such lame words for describing there's a baby, right?
Well, because I think it's because the opposite of fertility is death, right? If you're not reproducing, your line dies. You die, and there's no part of you that lives on. So it's more than just symbolic of death. It's if you're in one of these performances or in this lifestyle and you're promoting it the way you are and you're triumphantly dancing on the scene and mocking an actual woman who gave birth and had children by showing her with her head cut off, it's like you're wishing death upon yourselves, but also on everybody who's watching. That's what it feels like to me. That's more so than the religious outrage. You're right. It's an anti-life. It's beyond mocking life. It's it's almost like they're expressing contempt for it. And I think that's what's making me angry.
No, and the thing is, but this is what we're trying to unpack, right? It's like the outrage is because it's and they're doing it on purpose as a theater is also incredibly powerful, right? It's like there've been times when, theater has been disallowed because it clearly does something, right? It's make believe. Yeah. These are costumes. There's glamour. He's not really blue, right? And the sort of this is the kind of thing we've been talking about with our McLuhan meditations and also our ruler meditations, right? What does the theater create? And it clearly creates the energies that people are responding to, right? So there's the outrage, yeah. Right?
And it's creating the energies that are probably, swirling within their own hearts too. Right, because they don't fit in this world, and how dare anybody else?
Well, what's interesting about it? So here's the juxtaposition that everybody was most angry about. It's like the layout is mocking the image of Da Vinci's presentation of the Last Supper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, most of the people in the Last Supper picture didn't have children either. I think some of them did beforehand, but I mean, Jesus didn't.
Right, there's a difference in a power in giving up something important for something more important, right?
Well, they could say, I mean, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate for them right now. They could say they're doing that too, right? They're
except what they're inspiring is, through their mockery is contempt. And how is that a good? How is contempt good?
Well, I did not anticipate having to play devil's advocate in quite this level. Okay, so from their perspective, they are, I mean, we've seen it all. Like, this is love. This is inclusiveness. This is, not being excluded. I mean, obviously, the irony is intense because they have to exclude something in order to be inclusive, which is denying the reality of the need for boundaries in order for like reality to exist. You can't see without edges. So,
that's what makes it nihilistic, right? In order for reality to exist, I have to destroy yours so that mine can exist.
Well, they would say, okay, look, I'm just going to play the devil's advocate. They would say their reality can't exist if we're insisting that sex is for making babies.
Their reality can't exist. Okay.
Well, I mean,
men can't get pregnant. That's a reality. They're trying to tell me that they can. That's not reality. That's contempt of reality. It's nihilistic. It's self-destructive, and misery loves company.
Well, I think there's definitely trauma involved here. You could say that. I mean, there's trauma. There's trauma with Christ as well. I am trying to get us to the place where we realize that there's something here that we need to unpack.
Is there anything good at all about what they did? I don't think so.
Well, no, I agree with you theologically for sure. But what I
culturally, but
the thing is, I want people to appreciate what the outrage is fueled by, right? What exactly this kind of, I mean. So I did review. So I watched what Bishop Barron said about things, and the sort of mainstream Christian version of how to respond is we need an apology, right? It's like we want the jolly and butch and the performers.
Well, we'd like an apology.
Well, they say, and I think one of the imams from Iran said something that this kind of blasphemy requires that you apologize to us. We want you to apologize.
I think I would disagree with Barron.
Okay.
I don't think we need an apology. We don't need a Christ said we were going to be attacked because he was first. I'd like one because I'd like not to be angry. I'd like you to understand that it's bad to make people angry for the sake of making people angry and then laughing at them because you made them angry, which I'm pretty sure is going on.
Okay, that's where you and I are differing. I don't know that they quite so purposely meant to make you and me angry.
I think
the effect of
the
effect of it was, but I'm not okay. Maybe right. This is fair, but the response of being angry so that people are offended. I think they were naive enough not to consider that.
I don't think so.
Okay. There we differ.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Just because drag queen things have been been forced and shoehorned into the mainstream for years. I kind of feel bad for good old-fashioned female impersonators. They were actually a joy to watch. They were really good at it, right? And RuPaul started this, and he was very good at it. If you've ever seen him just as a natural man is what he is, it's very impressive what he accomplishes with makeup. Right.
Okay. So the illusion, you think the illusion.
But the illusion was really good. They're not trying an illusion now. That's just straight up mocking women.
Well, it's grotesque. That's the word I was using. It's the kind of grotesque that you get, for example, in the margins of medieval manuscripts, hybrids. Right. This is what they're okay. So we were here in Paris, and we've got the Cathedral of Notre Dame in the center of the city, which thanks to Victor Hugo was restored because he wrote Notre Dame of Paris, and it didn't get bulldozed through by the boulevards and rebuildings and things like that. And they tried to rebuild it and stuff. It was largely because of Victor Hugo's novel. And of course, the main character of the novel is a grotesque.
Right, the Hunchback.
Right, the Hunchback. Right. And this is often one of the things that people notice about, the outside of the cathedrals have all of the gargoyles and stuff on them. And medieval prayer books will be filled with hybrid non-creatures, right? So that's the best description I've come up with this whatever is going on in these performances is something about hybridity and the grotesque, and it's like bringing the margins into the center, which in fundamental terms you can't have margins without a center. So trying to make nobody marginal anymore is nonsense. But
I think that the fact that they're trying to make themselves grotesque, they will never compete with the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? Because he was kind, and they're not. That's just it. They're trying to normalize the grotesque as if to say, this is real. No, seriously, this is what a woman looks like. A beard, right? With boobs. That's not what a woman looks like.
Right, but
that's a grotesque mockery of femalehood, and they're trying to make that normal. I don't think Victor Hugo was trying to normalize hunchbacks, grotesque, deformed hunchbacks. I think he was just pointing out that you don't judge a book by its cover, right? But that's not what these people were doing. That's why I think the outrage was the point. That's why.
Okay, well then I realized that some of it's saying they're people. Okay, so there's different levels of marginality here. One, there's the woman who is the DJ in the Mary outfit, right? Or she says Olympic Jesus outfit. She's lesbian, yes? Is that correct?
Of course. Okay. What else would she be? Right?
And then there's the drag queens. Then I did not research everybody in the cast, and now it's getting curious and interesting. It's like the degree to which they are performing in drag versus they could be transsexuals, which the discussion around some of the athletes in the competitions, what that means. That the Hunchback is in 19th century terms a freak, and I happen to be on the internet for reasons that who knows why I found this. There was apparently a woman in the late 19th, early 20th century who had 4 legs and was shown by Barnum, P.T. Barnum in his freak show, among other people that were shown as, like big people, little people. And she was born with 2 pelvises, so she ended up with 4 legs. And her performance tended to be sort of sitting there and just lifting her dress up so that people could see the 4 legs. Ironically, that's what Christianity teaches us to be compassionate towards. This is it's like if you are in fact a freak in terms of abnormal, Christian teaching says you still participate in humanity. And that is all of the monsters on medieval cathedrals. There's a famous tympanum at Vézelay that shows the mission of the apostles, right? That Christ is in the center and he's sending the people out, the apostles out into the world. And there's a ring on the outside of the tympanum of the monstrous, right? The dog-headed monsters, the big guy, the people with one big foot that they use to shade themselves and hop with. A lot of these characters show up. These characters show up in some of C.S. Lewis's stories and also in Umberto Eco's Battaglino. So people may be familiar with them, right? These monstrous races. And in Christian medieval understanding, they're human too. So you have to go preach to them as well.
Yeah. Yes, they need the performers need preaching. Yes, they do.
Yes.
Right. There's a big difference between, the poor people who were, born with deformities that kept them out of society and people purposefully giving themselves deformities and saying, aren't I great? And let's make fun of all the normies now.
Aha! But I'm gonna get you to the other side of this, and you're gonna feel sorry for them. Because no, it's like, I promised. Well, if I could do my.
I feel sorry for the freak show people. These aren't freak show people. Well, these are performers.
They're lost, aren't they? Don't they need praying for?
They do. Yes.
The world.
That doesn't mean I can't be. That doesn't mean I can't be angry about what they did, though.
Fair. But okay. So everybody was outraged. We've untangled a bit of this to say why people were responding in the way they were, because whatever this performance is doing, it's tapping into some very powerful energies, as we were. When the outrage came out and they clearly marketed this as the Last Supper, right? La Seine, Sur la Seine, Sur la Seine, whatever. But then some of the responses came out and said, no, it's not the Last Supper, it's the Feast of the Gods, right? And I mean, maybe not the one that sometimes people are showing. It's like this particular Dutch painting. It's like a feast, with people along a banquet table. There's, I think in this one it's Zeus or something in the middle, and they're naked. So because it's a celebration, and fine, have a row of people. And if it's like Hercules with their blue people and such, it's the cartoon version of, the gods are there feasting. You can go, there's a lot of these examples of this kind of painting. Here's one, the people are more naked than in the previous one. We end up with this. Okay, so maybe obviously they're being disingenuous because they got more pushback. It's funny. It's like, I think you're right. It's like, how could they not expect that they're going to get pushback for this kind of display? But here's the debate, right? Is it actually, is it mocking Da Vinci, or is it celebrating the pagan, roots of Paris? Wait. Okay. Anyway, chat. Which would you choose? Is it the top one? Is the Last Supper, or is it the bottom one? It's the Feast of the Gods.
A bit of both. They're taking the Last Supper and turning it into the Feast of the Gods. That's what they're doing. They're perverting it.
The perversion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to see whether the chat is saying anything. Okay, Toby Bellick is saying sex is making babies and nothing else. Well, we tend to agree with you, but we're trying to get there. Okay, I think some of these they're having their own discussion in the YouTube chat. Thank you for joining us on the YouTube live. We're happy that we can reach you this way. The thing is, I think these are all the same picture, for real, right? And this is the problem of what is. I mean, it fits with the question of what's the Last Supper. So here we're here. I hear supper being made in the background of the kitchen, which is throwing me off my patter. Clearly, something very powerful here is happening. Clearly, it's meant to be some kind of ritual energy that goes beyond simply playful, entertainment, right? They're trying to. I mean, everyone's like we saw with the London 2012 celebration of the NHS, which was clearly an expression of the
that was weird.
The UK cult. Right. So
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can't have a
no
performance like this
then.
without it, being cultish and at some level, right? So whether it's the Last Supper or the Supper of the Gods, you are definitely, in so those level of energies.
If the cult of London in 2012 was bureaucracy, then the cult of Paris in 2024 is fashion, right?
It's fashion.
And art.
Yes, it's fashion. It's like this was a dinner on a fashion. I think that people have not paid sufficient attention to that they use the platform that the people are sitting behind in the dinner pictures as a fashion. So yes, well thought. But we have men dressed up in women's clothing at a dinner. And it's meant to be a sort of playful and transgressive celebration of inclusivity.
Except it's not. They're all alike.
Well, I just think, what these pictures are in order of. Like I say, we're shocked.
Sadly, no, but...
Oh, come on. Everybody's been going to Rocky Horror for decades now.
I know. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked by it. I'm just kind of ticked off that...
Oh, come on. Did you go to Rocky Horror and dress up in costume? I went as whatever
I did not dress up. I went and it was a lot of fun.
See?
Yeah, it was campy.
See?
Campy
they thought it was going to be fun. Just a sweet
they were, but Rocky Horror Picture Show was mocking B movies from the 1950s. It wasn't mocking... the Last Supper of Christ.
Are you sure? This is a dinner. They've got meatloaf. I couldn't find a picture in the movie.
They're serving meatloaf. Sorry.
Who was the first made man of Dr. Frankenfurter, who's trying to make a beautiful godlike man for his, and oh, come on, it's just fun. We're shocked.
I'm not shocked. It was just, what? I think people are hypersensitive, and I'm going to say right now, the whole Last Supper scene in Paris was just ugly. It was ugly. You failed. It was ugly. Unless your goal was to actually tick people off, and then you didn't.
Why are you assuming? Right? Come on. Do you need to? Why are you assuming their goal was to tick people off? Come on.
Because it worked and it wasn't pretty, so it was one or the other. Right?
Okay, you're saying the effect is what they intended.
The effect is what they intended,
that's possible.
So,
that's possible.
Yeah.
Okay,
I lost my train of thought here.
Teasing you too much. Okay, so the variety of ants. Okay, we'll go back. We got if we're really shocked, like Frankenfurter here, right?
Yeah.
How's he doing?
Loved Tim Curry in that. So it was just so wonderfully campy. He was. But, you knew what you were going to see there. Yeah. Then now I remember what I was going to say. People are so hypersensitive because, the drag queen story hour has been pushed on people and pushed on children and made people think they're trying to tell people, they're gaslighting and say, well, how dare you be outraged when outrage was the point, right? And now they're doing it in the Olympics. And, we know somebody who said, I had to shoo my children out of the room because I just wanted to watch the Olympics. I didn't want to watch this garbage. So it's the same thing that's been repeated over and over again in public libraries that have been taken over by their allies in this movement that seeks to normalize the grotesque. And I think that's why people are angry. That's why I'm angry. That, and like I said, they can do better.
Well, okay, so I'm going back to the threesome, this trinity of suppers. I mean, one thing that has come out, and I do think it's appropriate to address this because we're going deep on this symbolism tonight, is that both Thomas Jolly, who designed the show, apparently, is this accurate that he designed the whole performances, like including the boats on the river, or is it anyway? Just that he designed the parts of it that people are pointing to. And Barbara Butch, both are Jewish, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Which, okay, so this I've heard this attributed therefore as, well, of course they're purposefully mocking Christ.
Well, I mean, Jews aren't the only ones who do that, so I don't really think that's right.
That's fair. I mean, what I was thinking about, it's like they're both Jewish. Maybe they didn't get it. I mean, maybe they sincerely didn't. I mean, she did call herself Olympic Jesus, but maybe, I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to walk that back.
No, but I'd say, you know, I'm on the side of forgiveness here. I'm serious. One, that you know, they're human and we need to pray for them. And I put it to you that they would not have done what they did if they properly understood what the significance of what they were mocking was. I mean,
if they understood this, do you
think they properly understood the significance of the Last Supper? If that's in fact what they thought they were doing?
I don't know, but you could take somebody who properly understands that significance and still chooses to mock it, right? And I don't know that that's what they did, but it's certainly possible.
Well, so I'm just going to throw this out here as a possibility. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe, I mean, the fundamental, forgive them, they didn't know what they were doing.
Well, I mean, we don't have the insight Christ had from the cross.
He knew.
Right? He knew
that they got caught up in something and they didn't know what they were doing. And okay, so I'd say the outrage that we have around the performance is obviously layered, and it's I doubt very much most of this I do think is true. I doubt very much most of the people in that performance understood the layers of stuff they were tapping into. I think they mainly feel the energy of it and they get giddy on it, and it's like taking drugs.
Yeah, they had the biggest stage in the world, and yes, that's a huge endorphin hit.
I think
right?
They're in some kind of trip, and we're writing about this in Draco Chemicus, guys. So we've actually been thinking about it a lot. They're on the trip of the attention, the giddiness of the performance, the giddiness of doing something in this group. You know, the sort of delight of being in costume, which, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to play dress up.
It's fun to play dress up.
Dress up with an audience.
And I would put it to you. Okay, so I put it to you. They don't understand what they're mocking, and I'll tell you. You want me to explain now why I'm actually outraged?
Yes. I would like to hear that.
Because Christians don't know what they're talking about either. And that is, I mean, I am, and I have seen people who purport to understand Christianity talk through what happened in this scenario. And
can you give me the most egregious example of what you saw?
Well, the most egregious example of what I saw is the outrage over it being this particular painting.
Oh,
because okay, so you know what one, do you know where this painting is?
Oh, the Da Vinci one? Because I can't see which one.
It's a Da Vinci one. You can, so everybody,
it's Italy.
It's Italy. It's in Milan. So where architecturally is it?
Where architecturally is it? Well, it's inside a building.
In a building. That's good. That's good. I mean, you're further along than most people got. Right?
It's inside a building.
What kind of building?
There's a window.
It's a doorway.
Oh,
it's a doorway, actually. And the doorway cuts out part of the painting because it cut off Christ's feet because they put the doorway in. So people are responding to it. It's like, this is an image of the sacred moment in, you know, Christian liturgy. It's the communion, it's the Last Supper. I've you know, seen people talking through at a embarrassingly surface level what communion means, but there you go. I think they should be saving their outrage for an actual altarpiece, perhaps.
Oh,
this isn't an altarpiece.
Well, that one.
The Da Vinci's painting is not an altarpiece. It's actually a refectory. It's a painting in a dining room. And that's all it ever was.
But why? But I think people not reacting to the, you know, what the painting portrays.
You know what the
the
painting portrays?
The
they don't even talk about that. No, it's not the institution of the Eucharist. If it were the institution,
really?
no, that's the thing.
That's the Last Supper. Is?
Well, it's the event of the Last Supper, but this is not where he says, "This is my body."
Okay, it's not the actual moment then.
No,
that's what you're saying.
You know what it is?
Okay.
It's ironic, right? It's delightfully ironic. If this is why I say it's like the people who, if by putting on that performance of, you know, the Last Supper in the scene on the Seine, and you know, it's as you, I don't know, right? I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't know what they were doing, but I don't think they knew what they were doing if they're in fact trying to make outrage out of this painting, because you know what's happening in the moment that this painting shows.
Guess, is Judas running off to betray him?
This is the moment when he says, "One of you will betray me."
Yeah. That is very ironic. That's pretty funny.
Right.
I like that.
So they didn't know what they were doing. If one of you will betray me, they are literally showing the moment of the betrayal.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yeah.
Right? Now, so you like that, right? It's like, wait a minute. It's not an altarpiece. It's in a refectory. It's in a dining hall. It was so badly taken care of that I've never seen it, because in fact the one time I was in Milan on a student tour, it took 20 years to restore this. This is what it looked like before the restoration. I mean, talk about Napoleon, right? This building has been through all sorts of things. It's been a stable, it's been this, it's been that. This is the way it looks now, which is a pretty blank room, right? This may, I think this is the way it's on display now. That seems to be what it shows on the internet, right? This isn't in a church. This is not a liturgical space. This is a dining room. Right. So the irony of the Christians all being outraged is A, you don't know your own iconography. And B, you don't actually know, it's like the sort of, it's like, this is my outrage as a medievalist, right?
Don't make her angry. You wouldn't like her when she's angry.
Yeah.
She'll give you homework.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and this is so. I'm glad you pointed out that Rob Croce was saying it's like they show what they're longing for. That's what I saw too, and I can't remember whether Rob saw it before I did, or me, or Rob and I are often in tune because he writes about angels, and then I write to him. You can see that I'm a beta reader on some of his novels, and I'm writing back to him going, "Oh, you did all this cool like symbolic stuff," and he says, "I was just trying to write a good story. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Aha!" But you get it, right? So what I see Barbara Butch doing, I mean, if she's in this outfit with stars around her head, and she wants to be Mary, right?
She wants to be beautiful.
She wants to be beautiful. Yeah. She wants to be crowned with the stars of the Lady of the Apocalypse in the moment when the temple opens and the ark is there and the Savior is born and the dragon is defeated. What you get when people mock is their deepest longings. And that's what's so interesting to, I just, it's like if you see children dressing up, you say, that's what you want to be, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, they want to be loved. 2, they want to be beautiful. And 3, if they are mocking these images, why those? Right? It's like you could be anything you want. You could be Durga. If you want, Durga gets to ride a tiger, right? That would be cool. You could, let's see. I mean, Ganesh, he gets to have an elephant head. That's even cooler than being blue, right? So, there are many different ways that you can express your desires, and the primary one that we do is we put on the character of who we want to be. If Barbara Butch is showing herself, she doesn't want to be Jesus. She wants to be Our Lady. Now that's pretty sweet, right? She wants to be crowned with stars. And I say, therefore, what they're showing in there, I can see whether I can keep you with me, right? How far can I, if I lose Casey, I've lost the rest of the audience, right?
Yeah, no, you haven't lost me. I've got a slightly different idea.
Okay, but what we're missing, okay, so the best we can do is this plain room with a dining room painting on it, in the moment when Jesus says, one of you will betray me, which is, it's like you're looking at that and saying, gee, is it me, Lord? Right? That's the response you're supposed to have. One of you will betray me. Have I betrayed you? It's not the institution of the Eucharist. It's not the moment when the transubstantiation happens. It's not the most sacred moment in Christian history. It's the saddest.
Yeah. Well, one of them. Yeah.
Well, the crucifixion is sorrowful at a whole nother level, but this is, Judas knew him, ate with him, was one of his 12, was his best friend, for level of best friends, right? And betrayed him. That's sorrow beyond sorrow. That he was, I'm going to cry. Can go there, right? Oh. He was with our Lord in person, and he betrayed him. That's the moment they chose to show. That's the truth of what they showed.
That's that's very interesting. Now, I believe you when you say they didn't know that.
Of course they didn't.
Right? They just saw me. They just saw a meal.
They just saw a meal. Yeah. They didn't see the betrayal. They didn't see the betrayal that they're participating in, and they think to mock it by becoming it. They place themselves in the moment when they've lost him, and yet he will say from the cross, "Father, forgive them." You want to see where I think they wanted to be, and they can't, and they don't know how to go there? You ready? In heaven, right? Oh. And this is an actual altarpiece, right? This is the most famous altarpiece there is in the world because George Clooney was in a movie about it.
He was? Which one?
Monuments Men. Right, so this is the Ghent altarpiece. It's in San Bavo Cathedral in Ghent, but it was when it was actually made, it was made for a church that was dedicated to John the Baptist, right? So, or John the Evangelist. So it's one of the Johns. They're in both. I've now forgotten. Don't you panic.
Probably John the Evangelist, but
I think you're right.
Just because of the themes of the Supper of the Lamb is right out of Revelation. So
yes, no, you're right. It's got to be that. But John, so in when it's closed, I'll show it closed now. It's both the two like statue figures in the middle are the two Johns, right? So there's John the Baptist and John the Evangelist, and then it opens, and it's John the Baptist in his gesture saying, pointing to Christ the Father, right? Apparently, there's a big debate about the central figure, whether he's God as Christ or God as the Father, because he's both, right? And wearing the triple crown of the papacy. And here's John. Okay, so God's in red, Mary's in blue, and John is in green. And John in green is like pointing to him, saying like, this is the Lamb of God. And then, as you're right, that underneath at the bottom is showing the Lamb on the altar. And people love reading through the sort of wonderful layers of symbolism in this altarpiece, and we'll do some of that right now. But the sort of central axis is the Lord enthroned, the dove of the Holy Spirit, and then the Lamb on the altar, right? So this is actually the mystery of the Eucharist, right? The moment of the Lamb's blood becoming present to us. Anyway, but the Monuments Men, this painting, it's one of those miracles of history that it actually exists at all. One of the panels is a replacement because it's been dismantled and taken apart, and part of and it used to be actually I went the wrong way. Should go back to the full version of it. It used to be in a bigger frame that apparently had more sculpture and things on it, but that was lost a long time ago. But it was stolen by the Nazis, and they stored it in one of these salt mines. And in Monuments Men, Clooney and the others are brought. It's like the one moment that academics get to be heroes. They found where these paintings were hidden away, right, and rescued it. And in the movie, it's really beautiful because they have the panel with Our Lady being the one that Clooney finds, right? And so he's rescued the lady. It's great. It's his class. It's classic chivalry. They go in quest of the painting, and he rescues Our Lady. It's brilliant. Okay, so it's an actual altarpiece. If you look at it, look at the kind of like performative camp that the Paris display is trying to show with gemstones and fabrics and this is what they're aiming for, right? This is the sadness of the drag queen version of things, and the blue glitter and the this and that, because you kept saying it's ugly, right? Well, it's ugly because it's not beautiful, right? It's like a gesture. It's even Barbara Butch and her glitter and her rhinestones and things like that. What she wants to be is in light and color and transcendent, and because they're in the space of denying this reality, it can't work. It won't work.
Well, yeah, I also think they might have been because of the connection with fashion, and that they might have been trying to duplicate the Met Gala's Heavenly Bodies exhibit of a couple of years ago.
That's an interesting comparison, yeah.
Yeah, which I also hated, just because I don't think they were treating it respectfully. That's why.
Well, okay, so this is where the respectfully thing is what I find frustrating in the Christian responses to this, because I mean, and I know you don't share, you're totally respectful, don't worry about that, I'm not saying this about you, but that they've gotten so pious that they are no fun anymore.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah,
I mean, medieval Christians got to like dress up in this. Are you kidding me? And like celebrate with joy, right? You have Bishop Barron in his clerical outfits, all black. He has like a little plain silver, and I'm outraged. You're like,
I can't imagine him expressing outrage.
Well, no, he wasn't. He was quite calm.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
So there's a level of theater that they're actually, like, say, we get, beauty is real, right? And that's what we're responding to when we see Van Eyck's painting. This was actually painted in 1432, or finished in 1432. It was started by Hubert Van Eyck and finished by the young Jan, and is enormous, right? It apparently was made for a fairly small chapel, but it's, as it is right now, 11 feet by 15 feet.
Oh, that's very big for a small chapel.
It's huge. And it was probably...
How small was the...
It filled it, right? It was like wall to wall.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And then it has, you see it, if you see it open, it shows the full scene with God in the middle in the red, and Mary in the blue, and John the Baptist in the green, and then angels on either side playing musical instruments. Right. So this is like you're meant to have this in a, in a liturgical space where you have music, and here the angels are making music. Mm-hmm. So the Paris, you realize I responded most to that heavy metal. That was the most hideous thing I'd ever heard. Right. And, the music of the angels, the music of creation and the heavenly spheres is heavenly. Okay. And then on the outside, we have Adam and Eve. And interestingly, full-sized with the middle threesome of heaven, which creates some interesting meditations on, this is Adam and Eve, is it as they are fallen or as they are redeemed, right? Because they're lifted up into this heavenly space by the sacrifice. And then down below, sorry, I'll just finish. We have we'll get some closer up ends, but we have the Lamb on its altar, and surrounded by the saved, right? The saints.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. No, I something stuck out at me about Adam and Eve. She looks very pregnant in the picture. I'm wondering why.
I don't know whether that's some of the Eves often in this period have these poochy stomachs. I'm not sure they're meant to be pregnant. He's making this gesture towards his side, which some people say, I read today, say that's an odd image for a man to make, because it's usually the Venus gesture to cover her breast. I'm wondering whether he's covering his side, right? It's like that's where the rib, right? Yeah. And it's also, she's taken from his side in Christian medieval iconography. The church is born from Christ's side and from the wound too, right? So it's like the parallel between Adam's touching his space where his wound would be,
right,
and
And then it mirrors Christ's wound,
mirrors
right? So, because Christ is the new Adam.
Right. So I think that there's so much mirroring going on in this imagery.
That's so many layers.
It's so many layers. And then it's so that's the panels open, and then closed. It's this most of the time it would have been closed, right? And they just open it. It's a very theatrical piece itself. Most of the time it's closed, and you see the Annunciation with the empty space between Gabriel and Mary exactly matching where the God space is on the open one. So it's like, it's dynamic in that sense of the closed panels in the emptiness show you what will be there at the incarnation, which is God. And then at the man and woman on either side at the bottom, in the most like realist version, so they're ugly and like ordinary and stuff, are the donors. I know. The ones that gave the money for this amazing painting, right? Is that they're no Photoshop for you. And
I paid for this. I want to be in the painting.
Well, selfies are, a perennial. If I want to be in the painting, and the thing is, late medieval donors typically do this, right? They want to be in the prayer space, and they're not there to be glamorized. These people aren't, right? The husband and wife, they're there in their real selves to be in the space of prayer. It's a prayer space, and then at the top we have the prophets and the sibyls, who are prophesying the incarnation, right? So it's this full register of the mystery that is actually going to. This is so much richer than Da Vinci's Last Supper, for goodness sake, right?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah, it's not a moment in time. It's a moment outside of time where everything's happening all at once.
All of the registers, right? Da Vinci is showing the moment when Christ says, "One of you will betray me," right? So it's a historical event kind of thing, and Jesus has just betrayed his best. Is going to go betray the Lord, right? Altar pieces, actual altar pieces, are achieving something completely different, which is showing you the mystery that it's happening at the altar in the liturgy, and therefore everybody freaking out over the fact that the Lesson on Lesson is like Da Vinci. Okay, fine, that's not a liturgical space where that painting was. This one is, and there one of the sort of outrageous things. I did see a little clip of this in the video version of the Olympic ceremony. Is there's a threesome, right? There's sort of a woman and two men, I'm not sure. They're in clown suits too, and they're sort of frolicking up to a bedroom, and then the door closes, and we're not allowed inside. So there's a threesome, right?
Yeah.
A threesome. Oh, come on. Right? It's like
yeah.
The yearning for the transcendent is so painful by this point. It's like the best you can come up with is this grotesque version of what you're longing for, which is the Trinity. But even better,
they're mocking them.
Well, yeah, but they mock because they're the marginalia, right? It's like this is what people keep forgetting. It's like it's powerful if it's mockable. I really wish people would get a grip on this. It's like saying, if on unauthorized, if Owen is mocking your sacred cows, that means there's something sacred.
Oh, yeah, I know, but that still doesn't mean I have to like it.
Well, you don't have to like it, but I'm saying that's because it's the sacred. Okay, the sacred is the taboo. You touch it, you die. That's the sacred.
Right, and that's why I think they knew what they were doing, right?
Well, God is very forgiving. Although Paris was like the electricity went out, right? I didn't put this picture in. The electricity went out, and only Sacre-Cœurs left lit up. Yes. And then apparently Jolly got hit by lightning. I don't know whether to believe that or not, right? Yes.
Sorry, what got hit by lightning?
Jolly, the man who designed the whole thing, apparently got hit by lightning. Maybe that's a joke.
When?
I don't know. Like 3 days ago, something. I don't know. Look it up. Everybody, look it up on the internet. The internet. We live it. Wow. We live in the internet.
The internet never lies.
Well, I try. No. Please stick with me. That
I will.
She's who? I'm not sure which of us is being the straight man for whom tonight. It's good. It's dynamic. What's interesting about the mocking is if they're mocking it, they know it's actually powerful, right? They did this, and this is what the outrage is so like Well, yeah, because we're right. This is God.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't mock it if it weren't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's why I think they did know what they were doing.
Well,
they were mocking. But now, do they know Christ? No.
No, but they're showing,
I don't
they're
think
showing
so.
that Christ is the only truth by their mocking. You don't mock stuff that's not sacred and real.
Right. Yes, that's true.
See how I turned the tables on them? Right? No, seriously, guys, if you're upset that they're mocking our sacred, that means that is what they identify as sacred. They sense it, they feel it, they know it's the truth. And their response is like of a child drawing a face on something.
Yeah. It's just defacement. Yeah, and I think that was the major theme, was defacement, attempted defacement of Christ, of the apostles, of the Last Supper, of womanhood. It was graffiti.
Well, it's graffiti, but I feel like I haven't made this point yet, which is good. I have to keep. If you can't get it, I know it's hard.
You think way too highly of me, but go on.
I know you well enough to know that if you can't get it, maybe I haven't unpacked it fully enough. Okay, we don't know what God they're worshiping. Oh, actually, we do. It's Satan who's deceived them, right? As Satan deceived Judas into betraying our Lord. And right. We talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Reigning in hell. It's that Satan is furious because he can't. I mean, he wants to be able to be God in terms of in control of things, and mocks because that's like if they're mocking, if people are mocking it, it's because they sense the power. I think that is actually really important to understand. And I've seen lots of Christian responses out there saying it's like if we don't fight back, they're mocking us, it'll destroy it. It's like, okay,
that's absurd.
That's absurd because they can't
destroy God.
No, right? And if your faith is so shallow that it feels like it's gonna your Christianity. Elon Musk was saying something like Christianity will die if Christians still stand up. It's like, really?
Yeah, he needs some catechism classes.
He needs to stop wearing Baphomet outfits for Halloween, for goodness sake, right? So
I didn't see the irony of that when he did that, though. At least I hope it was irony.
I don't know. This is that this is my perpetual outrage. It's like people are so bad, and not even badly catechized. It's like they don't even know the history of Christianity to the extent that they can tell the difference between a refectory painting and an altarpiece, and that they can tell what the actual mystery and charge and delight and power of this iconography is, which is the literal mirror image of what the mocking is. Okay, so it's okay. So let's go in deeper, right? So here we have the deesis, which is what Van Eyck, and what's very interesting about these Netherlandish paintings from the 15th century is they're iconic, literally. That the Flemish painters like Van Eyck were fascinated by icons, like Byzantine icons, and so the kind of there's a jewel-like quality to these, so that they're also modeling. Van Eyck is clearly in this image of the God with Mary and John, imitating reliquaries, right? Her crayon is just like there's a website up of the painting now. You can like zoom in and just see the painted miracle of Van Eyck creating the light effects that he does, and the gemstones and the fabrics, and this is a delight in the material, but it's showing you the heavenly, right? But it's also meant to be showing you the kind of heavenly presence. That's why they're gold in the background of their heads, and that they're straight up icons. All right. The icon that this one is imitating is called the deesis in Greek, and it's the prayer, right? This is an image of prayer. It's okay. Talk about inclusive, right? That's one of the things that the Paris celebration was supposed to be. It's supposed to be inclusive. Well, guess what Mary and John are doing, right? They're praying for they're interceding in their prayers for everyone. And this is where Mary gets in trouble all the time. It's like she intercedes for everybody, even sinners. Wait, what?
I should hope so. I'd be hopeless without that.
Right? It's like, Protestants are all like, upset because, oh, you pray to Mary. It's like, yes, because she, her prayers are amplified with God. And here John the Baptist is, and his prayers, they're, and who are they interceding for? The whole world, right? This is, inclusive, everything that the wokeness is saying they are about is literally straight up Christian theology. This is, I back, 5 years ago or so, my department was doing this, we're going to do a diversity statement and say how we're all inclusive. And I'm like, that's fine. It's Pentecost, right? Literally all of the language they're using, the imagery, the language, the desire for, being recognized as human, whatever form they come in, to being inclusive, because they're all included in the celebration of the Lamb, to the fact that, the liturgy that they perform is in fact modeled on Christian liturgy. I think we know what's real.
Yeah. Right. How does that expression go? I'm not going to remember it correctly now. Something about the sincerest form of flattery.
Yes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Yeah, right. But this is right. Mockery is the sincerest form of recognition that the power lies there, right? It's the power lies in this imagery, and therefore a threesome, for goodness sake.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to genius, I think is the entire quote.
I think we're all mediocre in comparison to God, right?
Yeah.
And we desperately try, right? The children, this is, God looking down on this altarpiece, even, God looking down on this altarpiece is still like, this is to God's
it's finger
painting. Remember that.
But it's on his fridge.
God loves us so much. He takes even.
It's like, oh, it's so cute. Look at the tribe.
Oh, yeah, Van Eyck. He's such a cutie. Oh, he thought that looked like a pearl. Bless his heart. Now you're getting it, right? It's like, have you shown how God loves us? And okay, this is with the image that's at the bottom of the picture, which is say all of these people are, and it's both the Van Eyck he's very purposely put in like all the ranks of the saints, the virgins and confessors and martyrs and things like that. But he also has the characters from the Old Testament, because of course with the harrowing of hell, all of the people who died before Christ are also brought into the picture. So it's everybody, right? And they're all surrounding the Lamb on the altar. I put it to you that this is far more scandalous than anything anybody did on the river 2 weeks ago.
Why?
Because Christ is the scandal.
The scandal because he included everybody?
He's the stumbling block. Scandalon is stumbling block. He is, like Paul says, Christ is the stumbling block for the Jews and for the Greeks. If you want to be scandalous, I'm here to tell you, guess what? You're doing it again. This is what it's the children desperately wanting to be scandalous. Oh, are you kidding me? So right? Do you see how every single...
You want to really scandalous convert.
Well, we're going to get them to convert because we're going to pray for them. Right? That they don't know what they're doing. They're mocking because they're drawn to it. And
no, that's true. I agree with that.
They're mocking
100%.
Because they're drawn to it. And Christians, this is on you. You haven't done what Jesus said to do, which is go out into the world and preach the gospel. And there's my outrage.
Mm.
Can I go there? Can I go real fury preacherly? You haven't been. I can do my southern. You haven't. No, I'll do my granny. Right. If we Christians have not been sharing God's love and insisting without being embarrassed, not apologizing and saying, "Oh well, you hate us." No, we don't. Truly loving your enemy, which is what Christ said, truly forgiving when they've, like, oh my gosh, it's outrageous and scandalous because they mocked. You have not been following Christ. We have not been following Christ. Every time we get higher than thou about, I don't do that, perverted stuff. I bet you do.
Oh,
I bet you do.
yeah.
I bet you've sinned. I bet okay, I don't want to be bitter. I want to recognize that the Lamb is pouring out his blood for us because guess what? We put him there.
Right. If he's doing that, it's because you need it.
Yeah. And that, one of you will betray me. Oh, really? All of them did.
That's right. All but John, right?
All but John. I mean, Mary's not at the dinner. So, it's like Mary gets to stand under the cross. John still stands under the cross. John Baptist has already had his head chopped off. And all, they all ran away. They all denied, Peter denies him. I mean, this is, I forgot to put in the it's like the scandal of so Jesus Christ Superstar. When I'm reading about, there's this, I found some great little articles and meditations on the Van Eyck altarpiece. One of it says, it's the closest thing we have to the rock opera. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Because of the music and everything and the performativity of the altarpiece. But Jesus Christ Superstar uses the Last Supper too, and the hippie version of the Last Supper under the trees, right? And one of you will deny me, one of you will betray me, get out. That the point of it all is we all did. I mean, this is why everybody gets all bent out of shape whether or not Mary is immaculately conceived, right? She needed him too. Okay, fine, right? What you really are saying is you need him too. We never worry about Our Lady. I think I've come over to the Franciscan side. We'll carry on with the arguments for the Immaculate Conception some other time. But the reality is we all needed him, and that is indeed what the mystery is trying to show. And here's the Lamb pouring out his blood into the chalice, which is in fact the sacrament, and then. So that's the Lamb's blood, and then we get, and here's the close-up of the chalice. So we get, it's like, here it is, right? Talking about the Bacchanal of Dionysius and the wine.
Right. Yeah.
It's the sacrifice. And from the Lamb, and this is all Revelation imagery, as you said, it's John's Revelation. We get, and this is the inscription on the water in the fountain, that from him flows this water of life, right, as it flows from the throne. So it's I'm frustrated that Christians seem to be doubling down on their outrage and saying things like, it's going to get worse, they're going to mock you more, and not realizing that the mocking is a cry for help.
Well, we are assuming they're crying for help. Some of them might be.
I think they're crying for help. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're sinners.
Well, some sinners are fine being sinful. I'm not saying they are. I don't know. I'm just looking at what they achieved, the outrage they achieved, which seems to be the point. So I have no idea what's going on in their hearts. Whether or not I ever find out, they still need to be prayed for because everybody does.
Yes.
So that's our job as Christians, is to pray for everybody.
It's our job as Christians to pray for them.
Doesn't mean I don't have to like it. Doesn't mean I have to not be angry with the dead. But I think saying something like, I need an apology. No, I don't. I don't need one. I'd like one, but I don't need one. My Christianity does not depend upon it. Right. I think I'm almost more outraged at just the awfulness of performance. That can't be awful.
Yes, your aesthetic aesthetic sense.
My aesthetic sense.
Yes, I didn't like the heavy metal music either. And I and I think theater. This is what's funny about theater compared with liturgy. That we will say that if you turn the liturgy into theater, it weirdly turns into gimcrack, like fake. right? There's something about theater that the illusion, I mean, the liturgy, and the more I go to the traditional Latin Mass with the magnificent altarpiece and the priests and the actual liturgy, the more I can't look at the other stuff, right? Which is, it's fascinating. It's like when you've been exposed to the actual beauty of the music and the sacrifice and the prayers and you start, I mean, this is true, right? The more you're exposed to the true beauty, the more the mockery and I mean, it's different from the, like, God seeing our finger painting problem. It's if it's not in harmony with the truth, it's grotesque. It's hard to look at.
And maybe that's part of where the anger is coming from, and it's not being expressed very well, right? It's incongruent with who we know God to be and Christ to be, and it's not just that it's a grotesque, because, like you said, people go see Rocky Horror Picture Show and it's fun, because
right,
you're expecting ridiculous camp, and nobody did it better than Tim Curry. It was wonderful, but that's not what when you're injecting strong themes of Christ and his apostles and a scene from the gospel and an important one, right, where he's betrayed. That's actually a pretty important one, even though it's not the institution of the Eucharist. That's a pretty important moment in time there.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's what makes people angry. The incongruence.
Okay, we've got some chatter going on in the chat. Here we go. Toby Bellick saying it's not one or the other, the Last Supper, Feast of God, it's both, a conflation. I do agree. I think it's actually a conflation. And he's saying it's to flatter the bourgeoisie. They're all waving rainbow flags, laughing that they've scored on the snake handling fundamentalists. Probably, but I mean, they're obviously, pushing the Christian answer here because I do understand that they are trying to be transgressive for sure. I don't think they know what they're doing. I think, and that is, our prayers need to get them to the place where they understand the horror of what they did. But that's the problem for Christians also, right? We need to understand that late medieval meditations on the crucified Christ are the horror of what we did, right? It's like the horror of sin. Go back in the Mosaic Ark episodes to the one that Kiltz and I did on Zay's illustration of the prayer in Gethsemane.
Oh, that's awesome,
right? The John Henry Newman meditation on the why Christ goes through what he does in the prayer in Gethsemane is because he's taking on our sins. Like, whoa. Yeah. Right. And
he feels the betrayal of all of mankind, not just Judas.
All of us. All of the time.
And that's only God could shoulder that.
Robert Huffing's asking, did Van Eyck influence Dali? Both hit me over the head the same way. I like Dali. Maybe we should talk about Dali at some point. Van Eyck is fascinating for his ability to do these light effects. And also he's using oil, which enables him to do fineness of detail in a way. And he apparently was, I mean, you can tell it in the paintings, fascinated with optics and light. And we should do some episodes on that. Right. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost what you were saying. Please repeat it.
I gotta remember what I was saying now. I think the conflation of Christ with something grotesque and profane is what's triggering people the most.
They need to look at the crucifix more often, right? And to be blunt, right? That's what turns the Jews off.
The stumbling block, yeah.
Scandal.
Right. Yeah.
Our Messiah wouldn't be crucified. That's disgusting. Voila.
Right. And I think Muslims say the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they do. They don't accept the incarnation. Therefore, okay, so I've been showing here a mirroring of.
Well, they don't accept that he would ever be crucified, right?
They don't accept the incarnation.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
It's not, as far as they're concerned, the incarnation is not of God, right? Because God does not have an incarnate.
But they don't believe Jesus.
No, he's a prophet.
Was crucified. Right, but they don't believe he was crucified either. Correct. I think they believe he was switched, right? Which is similar to what the Jehovah's Witnesses also believe. They believe, no, that wasn't Jesus. That was somebody else, or Saint Michael or whatever.
See why the lamb is a scandal?
Yeah.
Literally everyone's scandalized by it. The Jews can't see the crucified as the Messiah. The Muslims can't see the God as incarnate.
Right. And I think the Jews don't want to see God as incarnate either. They think it's icky, right? That it would be born of a woman, right? Isn't that what the Talmud says?
We need to do a whole other episode on that. I got more reading to do. I was working on that. Yeah. But say the lamb is the scandal. And the denial of the scandal is ironically what the Christians should, well, I don't know, what we should be praying for them, right? It's because they're denying the reality of the incarnation and the reality of Christ that we're scandalized. But that's inverted. The inversion is the lamb is the scandal because it goes against what the world wants to believe, which is the Messiah will come in power and that God is untouchable by our messiness.
Yeah. And God wants me to be happy this life and do whatever I want, be my true self. So
okay, that's a layering I hadn't thought through. Anyway, what I got to was with the so I'm heavy on this mirror problem, right? And as I was looking for images, if you find one, my favorite Mary image, which is a modern painting of, it's a Trinitarian image, but she's holding a mirror, and in the mirror you see Christ. Right. And she's holding it in front of her. Right. So it's like she bore him in her. This is a very medieval image because in the medieval throne of wisdom, she's holding the child. Right. She is heaven. Right. Because she contains God in her womb. And here she's holding the mirror and the mirror is showing his face. Right. In the images of Venus with her child, Cupid. Right. She's looking at herself. And that is so, if you want an encapsulated problem that we have of the difference between Christianity and everything else is, in Christianity, the mirror shows God. We are made in the image and likeness of God. We show God, right? And Mary is the most perfect mirror, therefore, pure and reflects him perfectly. With the pagan deity, she's looking at herself, right? It's completely internal to her own desire, and that is everything about the sort of passions that are evoked by the difference between, but the Last Supper is seeing our Lord, and the banquet of the gods is seeing our own reflection of lust.
Yeah, we worship ourselves like Narcissus.
Yeah. So there's this sexy that we need to deal with too now, right? So we have, one, the theatricalness is a desire for the actual liturgy. I'm proposing to you all. The thing that they're mocking is showing that they sense the sacred and are the sacred. I mean, it's like the ark. If you touch it, you die. Okay, so the sacred is in. I mean, in the Old Testament descriptions, it's polluting, right? Once you've touched a sacred thing, you can't do other stuff. So it's got this power quality to it. Therefore, I think that's why it fuels art, right? It's like, obviously, that if you're making art in response to the desire to praise God, it becomes liturgical. And if you're wanting to make art and you don't have that response, it I'd say falls into the grotesque, right? That's why it feels wrong. But it's still the response to the same thing, right? And it's all fueled by the kiss. This is Aragorn and Arwen, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful picture.
There's nothing sexy. It's so sexy. Okay, what are we responding to? What do we wish for? It's not just Aragorn. And the sexualizing of the transgressive, obviously the power is there, right? Everybody's saying it's wrong that the men are dressing up as women. It's wrong that they have this sexualized performance. Yeah, but it's sex. Okay, so what is it, right? That we are meant to be responding to in that love and joy and embodiment, right? Adam and Eve were supposed to do this and have children. They just were supposed to do it without having decided to try to control things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, okay, so we have a literary interlude with illustrations at this point. You know what? Really? Okay, so we got the layer of how many times have I been outraged? Are we keeping score? Are you more outraged than I am by this point, or it's hard to tell?
Hard to say.
It's hard to say. I'm outraged.
I've been keeping score.
You know what? Okay, so I'm outraged that Christians wimp out on our mission. right? And you know, and get scared of being considered hateful when what we're doing is praying for everyone. And the other maybe that's the big one, right? But the one not so far away from that is we've made Christianity boring.
Oh, well, yeah. I don't want to point fingers, but yeah.
When it could be this. So what I'm showing now is another lamb who's having a fun old dance, right? This this is a book that's known as the Rothschild Canticles because it was owned briefly by a Rothschild, but now is owned by the Yale Library, and has a magnificent study of the fullness of its iconography by Jeffrey Hamburger called the Rothschild Canticles, if you always want to go look at it. But it's famous now among medievalists, thanks to Jeffrey's beautiful book about it, for a series of images. I decided not to include the text side so you can see the pictures more clearly. I can probably enlarge these. I probably should enlarge these for this particular moment. Make these bigger so you guys can see them better. I'm just doing a bit of redecorating here. Whoops, I went too far. They went away. Okay, they came back. It was made probably for a woman, but we're not positive. It was made in the Low Countries, not far from Ghent, about an hour and a half away. Wait, no, I mapped it today. It's in the same region, close, just south of Dunkirk. This was probably made in, and it's famous both for a series of images that are basically illustrating the Song of Songs. So it's a love story, and for a series of images of the Trinity, of which there are many, and I'm only showing you 3 in this. But it seemed to me that for our purposes, in convincing you that we got the sexy and they don't. You don't know enough medieval history. Is it
clearly not?
Okay, so no. So one of the videos I watched in prepping for us tonight was Jonathan Pajot did an analysis of what he called communion. I think he needs to think altarpieces a little bit more. But he promised at the end that things were going to get weird. I don't think he meant this, but it is weird. All right, so this is a poem by Dorothy Sayers called Desdichado. This is the air, come let us kill him. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? Oh, I resized it wrong. Just a sec. You need to see this whole picture because it's the bride being wounded and the naked Christ standing by the instruments of his passion. See, he's naked, ladies. You can get excited now. Okay. Christ walks the world again, his lute upon his back, his red robe rent to tatters, his riches gone to wrack. The wind that wakes the morning blows his hair about his face. His hands and feet are ragged with the ragged briar's embrace. For the hunt is up behind him and his sword is at his side. Christ, the bonny outlaw, walks the whole world wide. Singing, Lady, lady, will you come away with me, lie among the bracken and break the barley bread? We will see new suns arise in golden far-off skies, for the Son of God and woman hath not where to lay his head. Christ that walks the world again, a prince of fairy tale, he roams a rascal fiddler over mountain and down dale, cast forth to seek his fortune in a bitter world and grim, for the stepsons of his father's house would steal his bride from him. They have weirded him to wander till he bring within his hands the water of eternal youth from black enchanted lands. Singing, Lady, lady, will you come away with me, or sleep on silken cushions in the bower of wicked men? For if we walk together through the wet and windy weather, when I ride back home triumphant, you will ride beside me then. Mm-hmm. Christ walks the world again, new bound on high emprise, with music in his golden mouth and laughter in his eyes. The primrose springs before him as he treads the dusty way. His singer's crown of thorn has burst in blossom like the May. He heedeth not the morrow, and he never looks behind, singing glory to the open skies and peace to all mankind. singing, "Lady, lady, will you come away with me? Was never man lived longer for the hoarding of his breath. Here be dragons to be slain, here be rich rewards to gain. If we perish in the seeking, why, how small a thing is death." If you're not weeping now, I just can't help you. I can't.
I follow him anywhere.
I love they have weirded him to wander till he bring within his hands. Yes, Christ is weird. Are you people listening? Have you actually understood what the Seine on the Seine on the Seine is? This is the Seine on the Mississippi. It's a wedding. Right. It's the sexiest story there is. I mean, this is for me, it's like the tragedy of Rocky Horror, right? And of course, everybody remembers what happened to Rocky Horror. They decide he's gone too extreme, right? But it's the same. It's like he wants the the joy of the feast and the transgression and the sex and the frisson of being transcendent. You just need to go to mass. Which is literally what Tolkien said to his son. It's like saying it's all there, the romance, the suffering, the tragedy, the joy, the love story. It's like you get Aragorn and Arwen in that kiss, it's because this man went to mass.
Oh, yeah. Right. Foot of the cross every week, maybe every day.
Every day. And so I've started reading Holly Ordway's Tolkien's Faith, which it came out last year and I just hadn't time to look at it. And she's talking about now, one, he's from the oratory tradition, which was very interesting. St. Philip Neri, who I'm now interested to learn more about, who was apparently quite fond of joy. So it makes a lot of sense that what Tolkien shows in his stories is the joy of the love of the Lord, because he was there at Mass. From when he was growing up, his mother made sure that he was the ward of one of the priests there, which is how he was taken care of after she died. And his half Spanish, half Welsh father Morgan, who forbid him to see Edith for some years, but took good care of him. Apparently there were all the other men in the oratory too who taught him to play chess and took care. He had multiple fathers. He was an orphan. His father had died. His father died when he was 4. So these priests, raised him, and then he has the friendship of his. If you want to know where the joy in that kiss between Aragorn and Arwen came from, it's because he knows the true joy, the absolute, magnificent. The wedding of the Lamb at the end of Revelation is what we celebrate in the Eucharist, and so the altarpiece showing that, it's like trying to make visual the power of that heavenly. The heavens open every time the priest says the words of institution.
Right.
And God is present.
Yeah. Yep, bending space and time.
I love being Catholic now and being able to have that meditation properly, right? It's like, and you see the elevation of the host, and this is like talk about portals, right? Here, through matter, God is with us through the incarnation. And therefore altarpieces, this is, I have to embiggen this one too. Right. This is an altarpiece that you can see in Washington. It's at the National Gallery. It's one of my favorite, right? It's like when you're among altarpieces, you realize they're trying to show you heaven. And here is Christ crowning his mother after her death and assumption. And the sort of the reality of the joy of being incarnate. I mean, this is, again, it's like what guys we're missing out. You worry about the incarnation of the physicality of this performance before these athletic events. Yes, we're embodied. That's great. Right? We get to excel in athletics, and we get to excel in the physical selves that our Lord created us in, and we get to excel in the joy of, being embodied and being able to have children, right? It's all of these things people are missing when they're, desperately trying to be transgressive by dressing up in fancy costumes. It's like the fanciest costume. I mean, it's like this. Think about this, right? With the Adam and Eve, the fanciest costume we have is the one we were born in. The
birthday suit.
Right. so there's that level of joy. And of course, we cannot leave this meditation on what they missed, the opportunity they missed in celebrating Our Lady in gemstones in Paris. I'm going to make it not big again, just a sec. Oh, sorry. There we go. I don't want this firework to miss and be obscured by us. Just a sec. I bounded it again in our stained glass. It's the rose.
Yeah, beautiful blue rose.
Right. No, I need to embiggen that one again too. She can't see this. You guys are just appreciating it, right? This is Our Lady.
I saw it earlier.
Well, this is, I have a lot of meditation on this window because I think I found a poem that's written trying to describe it. The Our Lady and gemstone, but he's like this rose survived the fire in 2019.
Yeah.
Right. The rose is still there. And this is Our Lady is in Paris. You don't actually have to try that hard to convince me to like Paris. You just have to take me to Notre Dame.
Yeah, same.
Right. And all of the other stuff around it, who cares, right? It's all this Republican, thank you, Victor Hugo, for saving Our Lady with your hunchback and the celebration of the architecture, right? And it was partly because of that book that they funded the rebuilding of it, because they chopped all the heads off this king. Most of what you see on Notre Dame now is restoration because the Republicans came through and chopped all their heads off. But they chopped all the king's heads off on those statues. So if they have heads now, it's because they've been restored. So how outraged are we now? at the joy that they're missing out on. Oh, please come and play with us. Here, shall I read the poem again? It's a good poem.
Yes.
Okay, they're stunned in the chat right now. We shall now read Dorothy Sayers' Desciccato again. This is the air, come let us kill him. Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? Christ walks the world again, his lute upon his back, his red robe rent to tatters, his riches gone to wrack. The wind that wakes the morning blows his hair about his face, his hands and feet are ragged with the ragged briar's embrace. For the hunt is up behind him, and his sword is at his side. Christ, the bonny outlaw, walks the whole world wide. Singing, Lady, lady, will you come away with me? Lie among the bracken and break the barley bread. We will see new suns arise in golden far-off skies, for the Son of God and woman hath not where to lay his head. Christ walks the world again, a prince of fairy tale. He roams a rascal fiddler over mountain and down dale, cast forth to seek his fortune in a bitter world and grim, for the stepsons of his father's house would steal his bride from him. They have weirded him to wander till he bring within his hands the water of eternal youth from black enchanted lands. Singing, Lady, lady, will you come away with me, or sleep on silken cushions in the bower of wicked men? For if we walk together through the wet and windy weather, when I ride back home triumphant, you will ride beside me then. Christ walks the world again, new bound on high emprise, with music in his golden mouth and laughter in his eyes. The primrose springs before him as he treads the dusty way. His singer's crown of thorns has burst in blossom like the May. He heedeth not the morrow, and he never looks behind, singing glory to the open skies and peace to all mankind. Singing, Lady, lady, will you come away with me? Was never man lived longer for the hoarding of his breath. Here be dragons to be slain, here be rich rewards to gain. If we perish in the seeking, why, how small a thing is death.
I love that phrase, Christ the bonny outlaw.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
And not even death can stop him. It's like, oh, he's awesome.
If you want to be scandalous, oh my gosh, come with us. Follow our Lord in the wet and windy weather and slay the dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now that basically is a summary of our poem, but
it is.
It is, right? It's really Christ the bonny outlaw fighting the dragon and bringing his lady back. Yep. This is Draco Alchemicus. We're just doing it with pictures in 5 acts, but it's the same story.
Yep.
And it's like, as I say, my greatest frustration is that we're not singing that song. We in modernity are singing songs of beheading and equality and liberty and reason rather than our Lord Jesus Christ. So that's all we have for you guys. You have any more thoughts? Oh, they're talking to each other in the chat. Okay, let's see.
I've got a thought now.
Okay.
It's like when you talk about the altar pieces and the rose window and the incredible architecture and how badly it was attacked by the Republicans, and then you have this, well, let's call it a display, shall we, of the performance, the grotesques, the Fellini-like grotesque circus that was passing itself off as the Last Supper, but not really, but not really, right? It's very thin.
It's very thin.
It's very thin. It's like, that's, when you say, do you need to apologize? I got, what, for that? It's like, I still don't like it.
You don't have to like it.
It's ugly. It's ugly. It's stupid. I think they did do it to offend, because, as I said, misery loves company, and if they don't like somebody, they don't like Christians, because Christians, just their very existence is a reminder that maybe they're doing something wrong. You've actually unpacked that way better, showing, oh, you're absolutely right. There's so much more. There's so much more to this. And the fact that you're, attacking in a very superficial, ugly, but superficial way, it doesn't detract from Christianity at all. It only highlights that there's something there to look at.
It highlights that there's something to look at, and the thing is, I think the mockery is only hitting the surface because that's all it can do, right? If you're actually in the mystery, you're, with Christ the Bonny Outlaw and the scandalous Lamb, and the glories of heaven and the sacrifice of our Creator who loved us so much that He died, and all of the theological explanations for that come out of that mystery of the liturgical reality. And again, another frustration I have and have expressed before is that Christians now are ended up in arguments over, like, we can go back to Our Lady in the coronation, her degree of purity or something like that. And like, you're really missing the point, right?
Yeah.
The mystery of the incarnation comes first. Other things are meditating on the entailments, and the mystery of the incarnation is God enters into the world. And Tolkien is wonderful in thinking about that, right? Is what does it mean to say the singer has entered into his song, the teller into his tale? Christ the Bonny Outlaw walks the whole world wide. It's so good. It's so good.
That's cool.
So that's why I'm outraged. And I hope
You're outraged that they're not actually reading about the important stuff.
Yeah, basically. and that they're missing out on the true joy. And I think, getting angry at people here are, from my perspective, crying for help. And that Christ said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. And it's clear, it's like if you're betraying Him, you don't know what you're doing. And it's like, I think this is the damnation is, who He is and you turn from Him. And that is horrifying. That really is horrifying.
Yeah, I hope and it is horrifying. And that's why I hope they don't know what they're doing. Right,
yeah. Because
I have no assurity that they don't, at least some of them don't, but I certainly hope they don't know what they're doing.
Well, this is the saints in the period in which the altarpiece were painted. They're often accused of going too far and praying for everyone. Right? And
tells them stop praying for them.
No, it's like the nuns, the nuns that pray even for the souls in hell, and it's like, wait a minute, you can't do that. And it's like, you kind of want to.
Well, you don't know that they're there. Your presumption is
precisely.
Our church has said certain people are without question in heaven. It has never once said anybody is without question in hell. Not once.
Well,
that's not a thing.
Well remembered. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. and therefore this is, I was doing an interview yesterday that some of these same questions came up. It's like, if you're around anybody who's saying so and so is definitely in hell, you're not God. And God's the judge. And we will have to cycle through the pictures too much to find the judge, right? We don't know, and therefore we pray.
That's right.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yep. So we thank you all for joining us. We pray you've enjoyed our breakdown of why we're outraged, and hopefully it's been scandalous for our Lord.
You just know somebody's going to hate what we said.
Well, he never. Okay, look. If we perish in the seeking, why how small a thing is death.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us, everyone, and we hope to continue streaming in all of these various outlets so that you can find us live. You can find our videos on Unauthorized TV. If you subscribe to Unauthorized TV, you help support our art, which you understand now we take very seriously in praise of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.